Hello, good evening. This is Trey Olds. Thank you for joining us to the Trey Olds Radio Show. Today, my guest is broadcaster and voice actor Mr. Doug Herman. Thank you, and join us in a minute. Okay. My first question is, how did you get started in the voice and broadcasting industry? How did you get started in the entertainment industry?
Well, I started in radio just out of high school as a board op, and I happened to have an FCC license, so I did some engineering. And that grew into a few years as a jock and a few years as a newsman. And in about the early to mid-'70s, I got involved in promotion and research and stayed there for the rest of my time in the business.
Yeah. I love radio because there's so many different things you can do in that field, broadcasting and everything.
That's true, and there are several parts of it that I never got involved in, sales being one of them. And then there's the whole operations side, the business side, where spots are logged and that sort of thing. And I never got over to that side of the business.
Yeah. Well, there's still time.
I don't think so. 50 years was enough.
Oh, wow. Hopefully I'll be in radio for 50 years or more.
Well, I'm really kind of glad I did it. I mean, there are a lot of people that are really disgusted with radio and, how it's changed over the years. There are a lot of guys that are out now who really didn't intend to be. I mean, their jobs just evaporated. And it's certainly a different world than it was when I was active in it.
Yeah. Technology has changed a lot through the years. That's a big thing with radio and broadcasting.
Yeah, the studio today, doesn't look much like the studios we had, when I was working in the studios. It's, there's a console, yes, but I mean, there's no turntables, there's no cartridges, there's no tape, there's, all that stuff's gone. And, it's really a digital world now. And I'm not sure that isn't better, It certainly is a lot simpler than, queuing up records and playing cartridges and that stuff. So, moving things around with a mouse is always easier, cleaner, faster, and for, most practical purposes, a better thing to do.
Yeah. What was the most difficult part or most challenging part being in broadcasting and radio? What was the most challenging?
Well, the most challenging was getting the first job. After that, after I got past my on-air years, and the last time I was really on the air was in the early 1970s. Then getting into promotion and research and that sort of thing. I mean, there were a lot of challenges because my partners and I were inventing stuff and, and marketing it to the industry. And inventing stuff often is very challenging because, not everything you invent actually works or
yeah.
or nobody wants to buy it. So, there's a lot of, I would have to say, wasted effort involved, and that's pretty challenging.
Yeah. I've been doing my radio program for 6 years, since 2013, and I love doing it. I interview people, in radio or entertainment business and hear their stories, and it's fun to do. I love doing it.
Where are you doing this?
I'm in Mississippi, but it's an online radio program. It streams. That's the great thing about the internet. It streams all over.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not limited to, covering a market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it gets frustrating sometimes, but because I'm not really tech savvy, but not really good with technology. But I've loved doing it though.
Well, it's a fun way to earn a living, and sometimes it's a little dicey because people change jobs a lot, or at least they used to, and I assume they still do. I've known guys who have worked in a few dozen different markets during their career.
Yeah.
So you keep a trailer hitch on your car to hook the U-Haul trailer to.
Yeah. Going to a different job market after the next.
Yeah.
I've done radio and I've done theater acting and voice acting. I want to be an actor, and I've done some acting parts, but I started in radio, so I guess it always comes back to where you start, Have you ever done voiceovers or voice acting?
No voice acting. I've done some voiceover.
Yeah.
I've never done any acting per se, portraying a character, doing voices, that sort of thing. I've voiced a lot of spots, but
yeah, like narrations.
Yeah,
promos. Yeah. I've done a few of those, and I like voice acting. There's many. It's more, I guess, more indulging than just on-camera acting, because you just rely on your voice, and I like that a lot.
Now, in retirement, just to kind of keep my hand in the game, I have become one of the San Diego area's leading baseball PA announcers.
Well, that's good. Keep yourself busy.
I'm doing a couple of high schools. I'm doing a community college. I'm doing a large adult league. And I was a finalist for the San Diego Padres PA job a few years ago.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So, I'm not completely out of the business. I mean, I still put on my headphones and sit down in front of a mic a few times a week, so.
Yeah. Well, it's good. Retirement is good, but then again, you got to do something to keep you busy,
That's true.
Do you have any advice for people who want to get into radio and broadcasting? What is your advice to people who want to get in the career you chose?
Given the state of the industry right now, I would say that probably, you'd have to have a real good sense of endurance, because it's not a very stable business now,
Yeah.
It's consolidated now so that, a half dozen companies own just about everything, and most of them are in financial trouble, and every time they get in deeper financial trouble, they cut things, and that usually includes jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And so, now say you're the midday jock at a station in Denver that happens to be owned by Intercom. So you'll voice track your show there, and then you'll voice track a show for another Intercom station in Cleveland, and then you'll voice track another one for a station in Florida. And, there's really not a lot of room for creativity. It's just, here's the playlist, cut some intros, and here's some liner cards to read. And that's really kind of what it's come down to mostly. There are exceptions, of course, but the music formatted stations really are pretty much that. Of course, the news talk stations, there's a little more opportunity to do something other than just read liner cards there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The radio industry really has changed throughout the years. It really...
Yeah. I have one of my oldest friends in the business, guy I started in the business with. Mm-hmm. and I started in Nebraska. And my buddy stayed in Nebraska. When he got out of the Air Force, he went back to Omaha and got a job at one of the stations in Omaha. Now he's working at KFAB, which is a 50 kilowatt AM, big station. Used to be kind of the prime station in the eastern half of Nebraska and the western half of Iowa. And he's a news guy. And they're now owned by iHeartRadio, formerly Clear Channel. And he does morning news. And he does the newscasts for his station, KFAB. And then when they're in network or in spots, he voice tracks newscasts for two other Clear Channel stations in other markets. So he's getting paid for one job and doing three.
Yeah. Yeah, he's doing a lot of work, but only getting paid for one.
Yeah. And, that's kind of where at least the stations that are part of big groups like Entercom and Clear Channel / iHeart and Cumulus are. I mean, they try to get by with the smallest number of employees that they can possibly get by with. Mm-hmm. And they spread everybody very, very thin. I mean, so you're doing a show here, but you're also tracking a show for some other station somewhere. And, but you're only getting paid for one of them.
Yeah. But if you enjoy it, if you're in radio, if you have the passion for it, you're going to stick with it, if you really enjoy doing it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the thing is that I think you can get really burned out fairly quickly doing it that way. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Back in the more sane days of the business, you came in, you did your air shift. Then in most places you had a production shift where you went in the production room and you cut some spots, or maybe you went out and did a remote, or there were lots of things you did, and it really didn't get boring because you weren't doing the same thing all day. Mm-hmm. And you got to flex your muscles trying out different things. And, sometimes you found out that you were really good at something that you never expected to find out. Like, maybe you're a jock and you find out that you just love doing production and you're the best tape editor you've ever seen. And back when you edited tape, of course. And you find that to be a real creative challenge and you have a lot of fun doing it. And, so you start tweaking your career around so you're doing more of that and less playing records on the radio.
Yeah. That's how I started. I started playing music on my show, then a few years went by, then I switched to interviewing people. And that was challenging because I was so used to playing music, and when I switched to something else, I got to get used to that.
Well, when I started as a board op engineer, and it was not long before I was doing jock work. And when I finally segued over to news, I found out that A, I liked it better than playing records, and B, I was better at it.
Yeah.
And so I kind of stuck with that for the rest of my on-air career.
That's how I feel. I've been my show's been going on for 6 years. I played music for 2 years, and the rest of the years was interviewing people. And I think I like interviewing people. I'm good at that more than playing music, I think. Yeah. It's an interesting business to be in. It's a tough business. That's why they call it business, but it's interesting.
Well, I always preferred to think of it as show business.
Yeah. Because it is show business. It
is show business.
Yeah.
It's show business on a pretty small scale, but, unless you're in a huge market, but it is show business, no question.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Herman, it's been a pleasure talking to you. And
well, I'm glad you called.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure hearing about your career and your advice. Thank you very much.
Okay, take